Hi folks, it's Coach Kelvin here from the We Run Virtual Run Club and We Run Coach for Leeds and surrounding areas as well as online coaching. This little video, I think it's one of my more important videos and it was prompted by a question by Daniel about what to do after an event, in terms of like recovery and what comes next. And something that I see over and over again when a runner comes to me and I kind of initially look at their training history, we quite often see these sort of wedge shapes in the training where someone trains for an event, they do the event, and then they sort of drop down and don't do that much, and then they train for an event and then they kind of drop down and then they don't do that much. And they're always dropping back down to the same baseline, and then they're maybe doing similar sorts of training and expecting to get better, and they don't. And in all honesty, we're then getting older. So unless you're very young, this isn't really in your favour, doing the same thing over and over again and getting older and sort of almost expecting a different result. I think it might even be the definition of madness. And I think of it like this, that when we're training for an event, the sort of like last sort of training block, there'll be a heavy training load and then a taper. And when we taper, that allows us to have a peak in fitness and also shed fatigue. So a peak in fitness for the event itself. And then, as I've just mentioned, it's not uncommon for runners to then do the event and then training can kind of go on the back burner, or how well managed our training is can go on the back burner, where people kind of just go out and run, and which is cool. It's fair enough. Maybe they just need a bit of headspace after some, quite stressful training. But I think what a lot of people forget is the event itself is a really strong workout. And if we recover from it in the right way, we will get another bump in fitness. And what's different in that bump? For an event, it tends to be more of a peak in fitness. Whereas the accumulation of the last few training blocks, the taper, the event itself, recovering in the appropriate way will get this kind of like hump in fitness. And when that hump peaks, we're not fully recovered. So this is the challenge. So we don't want to then start using that as a springboard and sort of driving fitness straight from the top of that hump. But what we want to do is to slow down the angle of decay. So after the event, we're going to lose fitness if we don't manage our training well. And that's okay. It's kind of intentional. We can't drive fitness forever. But what we can do, if we do the right things, we can actually slow down that decay, and then at some point we're going to kind of move that towards another phase in our training, whether it's race specific work or it's some preparation work or whatever that is. And the idea is, instead of we have this like baseline of like maybe at the bottom, we don't want to drop down to that every time. We want to slow down that decay, try catch it before it hits the base, and then start the next phase of training. And then same again, that then gives us a new base. And then we train for an event, and after the event, we slow down that decay and catch it just before it hits the bottom again. So I don't think of training as race-specific phases. I always look at the bits in between the race-specific work, and has the runner plateaued in their fitness before they go again? Or is it this little wedge shape that doesn't quite go down to the same place that it did before the race specific work, and then it maybe goes again for another race or another part of the training, and then it maybe goes down again, but it doesn't quite go down to the base of the previous phase. So the bases are just stacking in time. And that's what a base is. A lot of people think of base training as the sort of like low end aerobic work, but I think of the base training as what do we do to keep raising the floor so that every time we do the race specific work, we're starting off in a better place than we were last time we started a similar specific phase of training. And that's how fitness works. Now, this is what interests me quite a lot. The time straight after a race is when you most likely need a coach. Because a lot of people don't know what to do. And the reason that they don't know what to do is it's very individual. It might need some kind of like, quite probing questions from a coach, asking about your longer term goals, what your likes and dislikes in training are, the time that you've got to train, and all of these things, where the race specific work is going to reflect the event more than it's going to reflect the individual. So race specific work is actually quite easy to program. If I'm doing like a half marathon plan for somebody, I'm not going to try reinvent half marathon training. I have got certain kind of like ideas that I use for different athletes at different levels. But the training is going to reflect the event. It has to do when we get that close. But after the event, that's when a coach is really useful, because a lot of runners don't know what to do to prop up that decay so that it doesn't quite hit the bottom. And every little cycle in our training, the base is progressing further and further. So I hope that makes some sort of sense. And if you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments below. And for now, happy running.